I feel like emotionally, women are more manipulated. Not saying men aren't, but I think emotionally, women
She's
are
speaking
more.
the truth, though.
That women are more. But then for guys, I think women manipulate more material.
What is up, guys? Welcome to yet another episode of Kicking It with Manny. So, in today's episode, we are discussing, do women manipulate men they don't want to be serious with? If you're new here, make sure you subscribe for more episodes like this, and let's dive into this. Today's episode, I do have Nicky with me, and we want to have an open conversation, share our thoughts, and hear from her if women really do manipulate men they don't want to be serious with. Okay, so do you think women manipulate men they don't want to be serious with?
I think that there's different levels of manipulation.
Okay, we're going to talk about all of it. So let's talk about the obvious ones.
The obvious ones, well, I think that some people might actually be really vicious with it and very manipulative, where it's very a conscious thing. But I think that a lot of the time we unconsciously adapt habits in dating culture that would technically be manipulating, but it's so normalized between both genders that it just happens unconsciously, and you're like, oh, maybe I am manipulating him and I don't want a serious relationship with him. But like I said, I think there's the vicious girls, and on the other side too, men that are they know what they're doing and they know what they want and they're gonna get it.
So do you think why would a woman want to manipulate a man they don't want to be serious with, instead of just being open and honest, like, hey, this is what I want, this is what you want, and we will banter, benefit together, whatever?
Manipulation in what aspect? What do you think that women are manipulating?
So honestly, when a woman wants something from a man, they want to manipulate them, they want to play their tactics and everything, stuff like that. So why would women not just be honest and say, oh, this is what I want? Is it because they're not gonna get
what they want statistically if they are honest with it? Because if no one wants to not be loved, and if you are manipulating to get this or this, then you be honest with them. They're like, well, that's not what I want. Just the other day, it was literally yesterday, my one friend, she's like, I go to this bar, the bartender always gives me free shots and drinks, and he's my bestie, and he asked me on a date, and I turned him down, and then the next time she went in, no free drinks and not even a hello, it was
you're a foreign, I don't even know you.
Off. Exactly. So it's just when you're honest like that, then you're not getting what you want. So
yeah,
that's why.
That's the messed up concept with this day and age. Why would you? I don't know. It's the manipulation aspect, because a lot of times we want to manipulate for what we can get, and sometimes, do you feel like women honestly do? There are some women that are just intentionally will play their cards right just so they can.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen it by girls. They have just almost a deck of cards, and they shuffle through and getting certain things, and I'm like, that's too much time, too much work.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see that. That's why I said I think there's people that intentionally do it, and then in the dating culture now, I think unconsciously too, on both parties, there's manipulation happening just because of the battle of, one, wanting to get something, or two, not wanting to put yourself out there and be vulnerable in fear of not being accepted or loved.
So do you think, since we are from a woman's perspective, do women manipulate men more, or do men manipulate women more?
I feel emotionally, women are more manipulated. Not saying men aren't, but I think emotionally, women are more.
She's speaking the truth, though.
that women are more. But then for guys, I think women manipulate more materially. And does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, get me drinks and get me this and this, and then I don't care about you.
Boy, man.
And I think it's growing more too with social media. I think specifically with girls, you know, they want to have the nice things to show off and everything, and social media helps with that. And then it's like affording that lifestyle and manipulating men for it and everything. So I think mostly women are manipulated emotionally, and men maybe more on the other side of things.
What's the other side
of like material, like for money, for drinks, for I don't know, connections, whatever else.
So do you think manipulation is necessary at any point or any stage when you're like let's say, so on the relationship context, do you think manipulation is necessary in a relationship or prior to getting into a relationship, or do you think it is necessary to just be honest upfront and just clear from there?
I think that there's a middle ground of manipulation and being honest. Not manipulating to get what you want, but not being fully honest. Because if you start a new relationship and you give like everything out on the table, you know, that person in general, anybody might be like taken back, like, whoa, that's a lot happening.
Right.
And I think like foregoing some honesty as the relationship progresses. So you don't necessarily need to manipulate, but you don't have to be 100% honest in a talking stage or getting to know somebody.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it makes sense. Yeah, I just think about, we had a conversation with my other friend on the other episode regarding men. Do men manipulate women they don't want to be serious with? And there was a lot of things that were shared on that episode. So one of the things that really got my attention is that manipulation is always going to be there. Do you think manipulation is always going to be there when it comes to the woman's side of things? Like, are women always going to be manipulating men just like men try to manipulate women?
Well, if the intentions are both to have a relationship, I don't see the point of that manipulation. What are you manipulating if you guys are both wanting the same thing? I think manipulation comes in when you're trying to get someone to turn a different way in a decision.
Right. So at
that point, it's like you have to manipulate it. That's not a relationship you want to be in, because eventually it's going to die out, because that's not a decision they actually came to themselves.
Right.
You can't force decisions on people. But if it's more of like the terms of like not a serious relationship and more so of other things, whether it be physical relationship or like women getting material things and everything, I think it has like lesser weight to it, because you're not playing with like the heart.
Yeah. So with your, like, for example, for you and your friends, the way you guys relate, have personal conversations and things like that, do you think that women, like from just what you hear from your lady friends and stuff like that, do you think women will manipulate more or men will manipulate more? Because they probably shared like some personal stuff about you know, their own life experiences, dating and stuff like that. Do you think women will manipulate more or men will manipulate more?
In what sense? For what things, I guess?
So manipulation aspect in us in, because in this day and age, if a woman will try to manipulate a man, it's more for materialistic type thing.
Yeah.
And or it's more.
I think that might be more common, just because it's like you go to the bar and just think of like the quantity of girls there, how easy it happens to manipulate, but it's in like a lesser like faction. So I think that happens more commonly, but the weight of it is less than, I would say, like a man manipulating me emotionally. Okay. I'm like, what's a drink? And break your heart.
So have you ever been manipulated by a guy before?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, being manipulated and believing that it's going somewhere and not, and just being dragged on. And like, I'm such a giving person that I see people in the beginning of talking as a person, so regardless if we continue romantically, I still want to help that person however I can. So, you know, I would do anything given limits, and I definitely think that's taken advantage of, and they like that, but they can't commit. But they're like, well, I don't want to end it because what she gives is so nice, but I can't give a relationship, but I don't want this to end.
So, have you manipulated a guy before?
I think that happens quite frequently, but when I say like unconsciously,
Like
that like the word manipulation has like such a derogatory sense to it, but I think of like those little like smaller actions of manipulation of like, buy me a drink, and I knew like I was not attracted to him,
but
I'm just like, give me a drink. Yeah, but in some cases too, like, it's just so funny because you can manipulate, but then like the person you're manipulating is also like knowing that you're doing it, and they're like, I know and I don't care. Like, we're just having a good time and I'll buy you drinks and you're pretty.
So you think this day and age, the culture that we're in right now is just the system people play?
Yeah, I think in both sides, you know, manipulate and believe that you're being manipulated, so then you're just accepting it and not catching any feeling. And it's just like a whole cycle. I think that like dating culture is like awful these days. There's so many like situationships and just like different like categories and everything, and it's just kind of silly, and people like fall out of relationships so quickly. They don't know how to like communicate and talk through their problems, and I think it's because so many people have like one foot in the door and one foot out, and they're expecting the worst. So they're like, you could be manipulating me, so I'm gonna not be vulnerable. And then if you're not vulnerable with the person you're trying to build with, you're never gonna get there with them.
Yeah. So ultimately, what would you say to viewers and listeners out there who are within this day and age, this culture? Would you encourage more of just being honest upfront when it comes to anything in general, especially relationships, or would you encourage people to just, you know, do what works for them or manipulate more to women out there?
I personally would wish that we would manipulate less in relationships and just be honest. It literally, I'm such like an open book, and like, communicate with me and I won't have any hard feelings, and it is all good. Like, don't feel like you have to manipulate to protect people's feelings, because honesty just like lays so much better and everything. So I think in relationship aspect, that I think that you should be honest up front. Again, like I said, a fine line. You don't have to say, I want to have babies and within a year, and I want to be married, and I want this, this, and this. Like, that's intimidating.
Yeah.
Like, hold back on that, but like, be honest with your intentions on both sides, because at that point, why are you building a relationship if you can't be vulnerable? You're not ready.
Right.
But I think in the sense of like lighthearted stuff, like, I'm not gonna go to the bar and be like, I don't want anything from you, I'm just using you for a free drink. Like, some things you just don't say.
Right.
And it's, at the end of the day, it's harmless, you know? He just met you. If he's heartbroken, he needs to go to counseling.
All right, guys. I do hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We had a really open conversation, sharing our thoughts and just hearing from the lady regarding ladies when it comes to manipulation. And so she shared a lot. And for me, I just leave the judgment to you guys to just listen and just like make your own thoughts. Because I mean, for me, on a guy's standpoint, manipulation, I will manipulate in a business. I will not manipulate a relationship, because there is so much more emotions involved. You don't want to like give the person false hopes that this might happen, and then it doesn't happen. And this day and age, it is so crazy. We live in a day and age where we just are too afraid to be vulnerable. That's the biggest thing. I feel like people are too afraid to be vulnerable, and then they put on this they like you, but they will not make it obvious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's the
And
point?
it drives me crazy. I'm like, I need interest, or I'm not there either. And then we're never there.
And again, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe for more episodes like this. And Nikki, what's your IG?
NICKYCHEY.
So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode today. Thank you very much for checking it out, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.